and welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always, my co-host, Tate Mathews. Tate, we are 3 weeks away from kickoff. It's hard to believe that the summer has come and gone. Training camps are underway right now. Scrimmages have happened. I mean, this thing is on top of us.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. August the 18th, actually, because Ravenwood will travel to Murfreesboro to Siegel. They'll kick it off for us, and then August the 19th, they all play. It's hard to believe it's this close, but it is. And, you know, as usual, we got a lot to be excited about. Well,
and to whet that appetite, if you will, this week we have the first ever WCS Sports Conference Media Day. You know, we were talking about it off air. It's really hard to expect how many people's going to show up, what's going to happen. We have had great responses from the media thus far about those that are going to be there. But WCS Media Day, sponsored by John Mader Builders, all of our partnerships, Prep Ticks, Mathews Team Sports, Vanderbilt D1, all those folks are going to be there. Chick-fil-A, Walker Chevrolet, they're going to be there. We're going to have lots of giveaways. We got Orca tumblers. I know you're a big Orca Yeti guy.
Yes.
We're going to have Orca tumblers to be given away. Matter of fact, I think an Orca large cooler to be given away. I know that
that's worth coming right there.
It is. I know that Adidas is going to be there. Team Adidas will be there. A lot of giveaways there from those guys. Hopefully shoes, shirts, and all kinds of good things. It's going to be a fun day.
Not normal. If it entices people to come, not the normal team stuff. It'll be retail stuff, maybe some golf stuff. So. Again, but I'd come just for one of those tumblers. But anyways, that's it'll be worth your time. Throw out the giveaways. It's worth your time to come. But on top of that, it'll be more than worth your time to come out.
Well, just to give you a little information about how this is going to happen, the event runs from 12 to 3. It's at Nolensville High School. I knew it is on Election Day, August the 4th on Thursday. But we felt like that's a good time frame there. It's kind of middle of the day. Obviously, they're going to have practices going on that night. Nolens will have the scrimmage. We'll get to that later that evening afterwards. So that's another reason to come out, get your first look at the Nolensville Knights, practicing there, actually scrimmaging after the event. But, you know, it's a free community event. We want all the community to come out. The head coaches will be on a main stage in 15-minute intervals. We'll have a media pit. All the media guys will be located in one area, and they'll be firing questions at them. You can hear anything you want. Everybody will have their team tents up, represented from each of the schools, and you can visit those tents and possibly buy passes if you need to, or buy any of the swag that they may have. So it's just going to be a fun, laid-back type situation that you can come and listen to the coaches talk about your particular school or your particular players. Media is going to be there. It's just, you know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and plenty of parking, so you don't have to worry about that. If you haven't been out to the new Nolensville High School, it's easy to get to, so.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing how that. We'll report on that on our next show. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about what the teams have seen up to this point, scrimmage-wise, what we're hearing, and look at some roster and scheduling issues. Right now, Brentwood has scrimmaged Beach this past week. What do we know about that?
Well, last week was the first time they could put on the pads, the full pads, and really go full contact. And it's fun to watch. I always like watching these guys, who they end up scrimmaging. And you can almost – it makes sense that Brentwood scrimmaged Beach. Those are the kind of teams Coach Crawford likes to scrimmage. But they scrimmaged Beach, and I think overall I think he came away pleased. Started off a little slow. He felt like they weren't really aggressive at the beginning, but as the scrimmage went on, they got more physical. Beach is a physical running team, if you know anything about them. I mean, you can't run and hide from that. They're going to come right at you. And Coach Crawford felt like his team got more physical as the scrimmage went on, which is a big point of emphasis for them right now. They actually scored on their last 3 possessions with the varsity, so that was good. Good way to end the scrimmage. Carson Shacklet, he's one of the young men who's going to be battling for the quarterback job all year long. He took all the snaps with the first team, and Coach thought he played really, really well. Caden Dreyer was out of town, I think, on a
baseball
World Series baseball thing. He'll be back. Those two, and it's a good thing. It's a healthy competition, but that's going to be a competition every day between both those guys. Obviously, you have to come up with a starter at some point, but I would think both of them are going to play the whole year long, and they both do things well. So a nice situation to be in. Negative, I think one thing Coach Crawford wanted to fix, and it's something that's going to be a process all camp. They got to tackle better. But, again, a team like Beach, they expose those kind of things. And they want to tackle better, and then they got to be physical, more consistent all the way through. But again, first scrimmage, I think all in all, he felt good about it.
Well, one of the reports that I received was the fact that they were extremely proud of the passing game. And the matter of fact is the fact that they could have thrown several touchdown passes once they realized that their secondary for Beach may have not been super strong or whatever. They changed their game plan because it was no reason to boat race anybody at this point in time to get to work on. So they started focusing on the run game, and like you said, they scored on those last 3 possessions. And I think that was a big takeaway from them, that they felt like the passing game with Shacklett looked pretty good.
Well, he's good. If you've seen him, I mean, he's a good-looking kid. He's an athlete, really good baseball player. So yeah, he can throw. It's fun to watch. It's just the next progression, the next step. It's Coach Crawford's second year. There were a lot of things he wanted to address last year, especially in the offseason. I think he's done that, and now here we are, a year two. Brentwood High, Coach Crawford 2.0.
Well, you got to look at that. We're, like I said, less than 3 weeks away, and you have to look at that game one for Brentwood. You got Independence at Independence.
Right.
Defending 5A state champions. You got to go there. You talked about tackling. You got to have your tackling on point, especially with that bunch. The team speed that Coach Blade's going to have is going to be very high, very fast.
Yes.
Your passing attack, or passing defense rather, you better get ready because he's going to have a pass attack for it. So be interesting. You know they're already building towards that game, have to be, and thinking about getting ready strategically for that game defensively and on the offensive side of the ball.
Right, and they'll scrimmage this later on this week. They scrimmage Stewart's Creek, one of the Rutherford County teams. That is a very athletic team. They'll get a look at a more athletic team than they did against Beach. Beach was kind of more of a physical team. Stewart's Creek will be a more athletic team. They don't run the same offense as Independence, but it'll be another good test. But you know, that's going to be fun to watch that first game. Both those guys game plan so well. Coach Crawford will have a good game plan. But you're right. If you can't tackle in the open space against Independence, that's not a recipe for success.
And when I went out on their campus to check them out in practice, the thing that sticks out to me is the numbers that they have. Coach Crawford does a great job of getting those kids out and running a stable program, you know, and it's just the sheer numbers that they have at the high school level is pretty staggering. You think about how many kids they have out there with their freshmen combined. It's a lot of kids, and it's hard to manage, but his coaching staff, it's a well-oiled machine. I love watching him in action because he is not a guy that's going to walk around while the assistant coaches get it done. He is right in the middle of it, sweating just like the rest of them, running and yelling and hat on backwards. I love it. I mean, it's just that that positive energy he brings is infectious. I mean, everybody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I mean it in a good way. I've told him before, he's the Energizer Bunny. I mean, his energy level, and we've talked about it before, he brings, you know, he's in the weight room for the classroom. And if you've ever been to one of his weight room, his classes, PE classes, he coaches that just like he does on the field. The guy, and he brings it every single day. His energy level is through the roof.
We're not rolling the balls out.
No, they're not rolling the balls out. No.
All right, Centennial High School, the Cougars took on Smyrna. What do we know about that scrimmage?
Well, as we've talked about in some of our previous shows, Smyrna is going to be one of the better teams in 6A. If you want to find out how physical your team is, this is a good scrimmage for it. They've got one of the better running games in the mid-state, maybe the state. Casey Perkins is going to be a great running back. And so the positives that they took out of it was, and sometimes you can take it for granted, especially with the new staff, the defense lined up correctly, and which was a positive that they were happy about. And they were really pleased with the way they ran to the ball on defense. Now, some things they got to work on going into week 2 is we're running to the ball, we're getting there. Now we got to run through the ball carrier, do a better job of wrapping up and keeping our feet. The good thing about that is those are all things that can be fixed. So on defense, those are kind of the positives and the negatives. Coach Kreisky thought offensively there were some bright spots, but there just wasn't any consistency. That's something that has been a problem so far since they got back on July the 11th, and something they're trying to fix. But again, when you look at on the offensive side, all the people that they're replacing, there's some big shoes to fill. So offensively, we got to find we got to be able to get a rhythm. We've got Riverdale and. Who's the other one they've got this week? They've got Siegel. That's right. They've got Siegel this week, and that is a program or a team that won't be as far ahead of Centennial as they were physically this week. So that's this Friday. They have a chance to take another step doing that.
You talk about key players and shoes to fill right now. Coming out of Aggieland, down at Texas A&M, Tyrell Dotson making some serious noise, possibility of cracking the starting lineup as linebacker in the SEC as a freshman.
That'd be unbelievable.
That would be unbelievable. Then you have Warren Jones, Nate Wilkinson, Peyton Pisacani, and Tristan Pisacani that they lost last year, obviously with the return of the Katina kid, Eli Katina, Nick Bell, Tony Wall, Clay Carter, Devious Crispin, Centurion DeRoe. Let's not forget Trey Stewart. Trey's the starting quarterback right now. Coach did talk positively about his role and how he played. You look at Clay Carter and Nick Bell and those guys on the defensive side of the ball. That's some good pieces coming back there.
Oh yeah,
but there's some big shoes, like you said, of those lost players.
And Clay Carter played great. He was as good as any linebacker around last year. He's just happened to be playing against or right next to Tyrell Dotson. So, anyways, he's if you gotta build around somebody on defense, he's a good one to do it.
Week 1, you got to start looking at the Battle of Franklin and get Franklin at Franklin. Centennial will go there. Doesn't matter what time of the year this game is played. Doesn't matter the records. This is a true rivalry matchup right there between those two guys. Interesting. It's a great game. Great. It'll be well attended. It will be a huge gate. But obviously they're
I'll be interested to see how many people from Paris come. I mean, you want to talk about storylines now. Donnie Webb, Dr. Defense, head coach of Franklin. Dr. Lee Webb, principal of Centennial. Matt Kreisky, head coach of Centennial, played for Donnie Webb at Henry County.
Yep.
Anyways, a lot of stories.
That's an interesting dynamic that I haven't thought about. But you got to start looking for that as their home opener. I mean, Coach Kreisky, we talked about it that the schedule didn't do him any favors.
No.
I mean, you start off with Franklin and then turn around and have to play Independence at home. Let's just say hypothetically you could possibly go into the Dixon County game 0-2. If you came out of that one split 1-1, I would feel very positive about what he's done.
Yeah, I would too. But I would if I was anybody.
Oh,
I mean, not
absolutely.
just Centennial. Anybody comes out of those two games with a split, you got to feel pretty good about that.
Because once he comes back from Dixon, you've got Ravenwood. That'd be another interesting matchup, coin toss. I give the slight edge to Ravenwood just because of the fact of what happened last year. Those kids will remember that game of the only loss. And then you got Northeast, West Creek, and Clarksville that you ought to be able to go in and get some success off on that 3-game stretch. So Centennial High School be looking interested, very interested. A lot of people are interested in the Coach Kreisky era of Centennial, what that holds, what that entails, and that includes me as well. Marshall County scrimmaged Fairview High School this past week. Now, Marshall County down in Lewisburg are looking to be some of the favorites on that 3A level of winning the state championship.
Yeah, they're a very, very, very good football team. They're experienced. They've got a lot of guys back, and they are very athletic and can run. So Coach Hughes knew that going into this scrimmage, but he wanted to see how his team responded. Not a whole lot of positives came out of this. I mean, if we're just being honest, and he would tell you that. But, the thing I always remember about some of those, and that's, I think, one thing he can tell his team. He can look his team in the eye after that scrimmage and say, guys, not a whole lot went well for us today, but that's as good as we're going to see all year long right there. And that is, unless they see him again in the playoffs, So the positives they can take away from that was against the best team they're going to see on their schedule, and that's what they can run from. That's what they can learn from going into the next ones. The good thing is they've got Greenbrier this week that they scrimmage, and that is a team that they match up way better with, and they can work on some of those things. We talked about it with some of the other ones. You got a young quarterback filling in for Hunter Zimmerman, 3-year, 4-year starter. I mean, who was All-State as a sophomore. So you're already breaking them in. The first scrimmage against Marshall County, that's tough. So, but he's going to be fine. Got a little bit rattled. He needs to, settle in and play with a little bit more confidence, which he will. Again, it's the first week of practice. Defensively, which it kind of seems like something that he talked about when we had him on the coaches show. He was a little bit disappointed in last year. He wants them to play more physical. He didn't get out of that Friday what he wanted. Again, you lose a guy like Ben Buttrey, who's the leader on your defense and the linebacker, that could be part of that right there. But I think they will. Again, Greenbrier coming up Friday. They got to be excited about that. That gives them a chance to take a step forward this week.
Well, like you said, Hunter Zimmerman and Ben Buttrey both gone now. You got returning Hunter Caldwell at the running back linebacker position, Jake Beathard and Sam Sanborn. You got a few pieces there that you can build around. Marshall County right now, put it in perspective, has 3 kids that are highly touted that are being recruited. Matter of fact, the SEC offer I think is on the table from South Carolina for one of those guys.
Yes.
So they're loaded.
They're loaded.
And they have a possible chance of being in Cookeville. And, established programs don't have to necessarily have cupcake scrimmages. You want to be able to get a variation, because you can start off with that game that you think you'll have success in, but you need to follow it up with a game that'll put things in perspective for you as a coaching staff and your players,
right.
And then hopefully follow it up with a little success or a tough-fought successful game. So we'll see how that next scrimmage goes for Fairview. Next is Franklin High School. Coach Webb got him a team in, Blackman, that's got plenty of athletes. Yeah. And what can we take away from that game?
Well, it was kind of the same story as Brentwood in the competing end. Coach Webb didn't feel like they competed the way he wanted them to in the beginning of the scrimmage. Blackman hit him in the mouth early, second play from scrimmage. Master Teague, running back for Blackman. If you don't know who he is, you will as the season unfolds. He is going to be a big-time player. He took it 70 yards. After that, they settled in, and he felt like they competed very well against very good competition. So he was excited about that. On the offensive side, he thought they did a lot of things well, something we had talked about from carrying over from this year. Something that you're going to see a lot of is the option. He felt like the outside option plays, they did really well, and he was very pleased with the play action plays. That's where you're going to see Alex Gacka a lot. But
probably 6 times a game, 5 in warm-ups.
Yep.
So, Gacka, make sure you catch it that one time.
I think you'll see it more now.
I say that just because I always mess with Coach Webb. Saturday we were together and we were talking about that. He said, his quote is, "I know it's boring, but I love it."
That's right.
So, it is what it is, and if it gets you the win, that's fine too. I love to mess with him and Coach Coleman about the vertical passing game.
And when you look at his roster and his team, that's the offense he thinks gives them the best chance for success, which he's probably right now. But, I think we'll see that a little bit more. You'll see it a little bit more than you did last year, and he is. If you look at Alex's stats from last year, he catches most of them, so that's a good thing.
Well, and speaking of, he has received an offer from Austin Peay and is going to Austin Peay, which is interesting because I know that the Austin Peay coach, Coach Will Healy, has done some serious mid-state recruiting, which they had, not had in the past.
Right. And
there's a lot of kids right now that are kind of getting on that boat for them. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the OVC with Austin Peay football, who is completely non-existent to Coach Healy, and see what happens. So it's going to be interesting to see that. Now, back to the point of the running game. You have the largest offensive line of anybody you'll play.
I would think so.
Why? Does that benefit you? Let me ask you a football question. Does that benefit you in both, or does it really lend itself to the running game more so than the passing game?
Well, it depends on what kind of players they are. But
right.
Yeah, you would think the running game. But both. Max Ray is a tackle, and if he can keep them off them, and those are some of the things he's going to have to do. They're going to have to be able to see that for, the bigger schools as they keep getting more and more tape on him, which I think he can. So he's an athletic kid, but you would think that means they could line up and run the ball right at you, but that's not really what they are. They're going to be a lot of option, and the neat thing about it is, and Coach Dan Winfrey, for those that don't know, he's the offense coordinator at Franklin. He was with Ron Crawford for years at Brentwood. He's one of the best coaches around now, especially offensively, and he does a great job with it, both teaching it and the play calling during the games. But it forces you to be disciplined, and if you're not, they're going to find if there's an area where you're not very sound, they're going to find it and they're going to hit you with it. So I would think both, but again, they're going to be a run-heavy team. Defensively, one thing he wasn't very happy about was he didn't think the defense played very disciplined. which that's not really something you expect out of a Donnie Webb, Dr. Defense team. But the thing you can take away from that is he will fix that. They've got Summit this Friday, wing T offense. You have to be disciplined on defense, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that scrimmage. But if that's the big negative that came out of it, I'd feel pretty good because he's going to fix that.
Well, Independence played Overton last week, defending 5A state champions, 15-0. We can go down the list. Everybody's heard that plenty of times before. Is there a chance to repeat, and what did it look like against Overton?
Well, Overton's a very athletic team. They're one of the ones that beat Franklin last year. Now, both teams look different, but they're an athletic team and I think a well-coached team as well. They've got a big-time player in Theo Jackson, who's committed to the University of Tennessee. He's, I think, the number 12 prospect in the state. He's a big-time player. But Coach Blade felt really good about it. There was the thing he was most happy about, talk about filling big shoes. Andrew Bunch, pretty tough to fill that guy's shoes. The Hines youngster played every snap with the first team, and Coach thought he played very, very well. Made some big plays, had a couple of big plays, as a matter of fact. So he was very excited about that. Troy Henderson, running back, who's taken Wright's place, Daniel Wright's place. He's a guy that, as we know, he's talked about. He has a lot of excitement about him coming in. He's a really explosive kid. Got to find his place, but he will, because he can be a big threat for him. So he felt really good about it. They had some big plays. They did give up a big play to Overton pretty early on, but outside of that, Independence handled that schedule. I mean, that scrimmage pretty easily. Kind of a reoccurring theme. What were some of the negatives? He wants to see them more physical across the board. Again, they've only been in pads for 4 days. So, I understand what they're saying, but that's part of what makes them great is they've been in pads for 4 days.
Come on, man.
Right.
Right.
Kind of like you basketball guys.
Come on, man.
You expect them to be in, tip-top shape.
Right out of the gate,
right.
Come on.
Right.
Kendrell Scurry, sophomore, 6'3", 185.
Got a pretty nice offer the other day.
Pretty nice offer. He's a class of 2019. He's already got his first offer, and he's done. He's shut her down. He's committed. Now, and I know in this business that doesn't last.
It means nothing.
But it's interesting to note that Scurry, as a sophomore, has received his first offer from the University of Tennessee, and he is officially committed to go there.
I shouldn't have said that. That came off wrong. It means a lot. What it means is a lot can change, but here's what it does mean. University of Tennessee, the other ones are going to start coming.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to go wherever he wants to go.
I think your point was the fact that in today's society, with the trend of the other kids,
sure,
a verbal commitment doesn't mean a lot. Now, I hope for this young man, it is. We've seen some pretty steady commitments here as far as that's concerned. I think Max Ray also, he's kind of went early with Georgia. He's been that way the whole way. He's never wavered. And when Saban and those guys came calling, which they have, he still stayed with Georgia. Now, still got plenty of time. Plenty of time to go. Things change. I understand that. It's a deadly business.
I've always thought Max Ray would look really good in orange, but that's okay.
Well, they, like you said earlier, they opened up at Brentwood, Independence High School. Page High School played Richland this past week in the scrimmage. What do we know about the Patriots?
Well, the varsity didn't get to play a whole lot, but in a way that was good. You talk about another team that's got some big holes to fill, which they do, but really Page, it was really a mismatch between Page and Richland. But what he did get out of it, he got to play as freshman a lot and a whole lot, and obviously
I'm assuming that's on the positive side.
That's on the positive side because obviously at a place like Page, you're going to have to build depth.
That's a positive side that the freshmen got to play.
Correct.
Because everything was going Page's way.
Well, everything was going Page's way, and also it gets them some experience. They can build depth. They're going to have depth. They scrimmaged Shelbyville this week. Freshmen aren't going to get to play a whole lot in that game, the younger guys. So that was the good. They got to play their young guys. Jacob Van Landingham is probably going to be the quarterback, replacing Michael Magochi, Derek Bittner tailback. So they'll get some better work against Shelbyville this week. Here's a name to remember: freshman running back Bubba Johnson. Coach Rathbone very high on him. He thinks he's going to be a dude.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they do. Battle of 840 less than 3 weeks away with Fairview.
At Fairview.
At Fairview. You know that Fairview is lying and waiting for this game, has been for a year now because of what happened last year. Ravenwood and Oakland played. That would have been an interesting scrimmage to be into. You know that there's athletes galore. Yes. You've got the 4-star, the 5-star kid
Jacoby
Stevens at Oakland. What do we know?
Well, I don't know why Coach Westman kept the scrimmage, other than maybe because it was already scheduled. I know the reason Coach Hester used to scrimmage Oakland is because he knew they were going to line up and be physical, and we were going to find out right off the bat who was going to stick their face in there and compete. I think it was a little bit more of that again last Friday. I think it got physical really quick, maybe even a little chippy. But, you know, sometimes that happens. Nobody got hurt that I know of. And so I think that's what they found out. They found out, hey, 2015's over, right? This is 2016, and we got to show up. That team was physical.
But you know that Oakland's going to have that chip because here you are, the defending 6A champions, and then we got something to prove.
Right. But if you'll remember last year, Will said the same thing. That scrimmage was the best thing that happened to him because last year Oakland got after him. And so he could look him back in, you know, he could go look at him in the locker room and say, hey, guys, what we did last year coming a point short of Maryville, that doesn't mean anything in this season. So I think that's what he got out of it. He feels really good about his two quarterbacks, McCain Morrow and Van Landingham. But just like we're talking about with all these other guys, he's got to see some consistency. Morrow can throw a beautiful ball if he can come around on the consistency part.
Name you need to remember for Ravenwood, Taj Williams.
Yes.
I understand that
Nice
Taj
player.
is having a great preseason right now. Everybody's going to be waiting to see
Real quick,
what happens in the Richie Westman era.
Friday, talk about a scrimmage that would be fun to watch. Ravenwood, Indy.
That will be a good one.
That'll be a good one.
Summit, Old Sparty hosted Warren County. What do we know about the Warren County scrimmage?
If Coach Coleman's reason for scheduling this scrimmage was to have success, they had it. He felt really good about it. Big plays on both sides. He felt good about that. Dalton Fisher played really well. Running back, negatives, leverage. He thought they were playing too high on both sides of the ball. When you run the wing T offense and you're playing high, that ain't good. Something they got to fix, but something they can fix.
Well, they open up with Spring Hill in less than 3 weeks. And I figure that's a really good game for them off the bat. I feel good about that game. I feel that they get off to a good start there. We've talked about it all year long. I want to come into the September 16th border battle against Indy. I want both teams to come in that game undefeated. Because that just makes it an interesting. Because you know it's going to be it's going to be the biggest game for Summit's community ever if they can do that. And I believe that they can get there. And I look forward to seeing it. Man, football's on us, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
From this point forward, we're all football the way out. We'll update you on anybody that's signed, anybody that's getting offers in football, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you for joining us on WCS Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.
Please come on out and join us at the 2016 Williamson County Fair from August 5th to the 13th at the Ag Expo Park in Franklin, Tennessee. This year's theme is Barnyard Mardi Gras. For any more questions or information, please visit www.williamsoncountyfair.org. Hope to see you there.
When the saints come marching in.